It's safe to say that the third season of Friendship is Magic has been controversial. Every episode seems to have some complaint lodged at it by the mass consensus. The Crystal Empire had a terrible villain, one bad apple botched up the bullying moral, Magic Duel was underwhelming, Keep Comin' Flutteron had horrible pacing, etc. There was no universally loved episode in this season like Hurricane Fluttershy or Suited for Success. And pretty much since the season began, I've been trying to find out why. I've looked through many doors and come up with no answer that either didn't make sense or was full of holes. The most notable excuses of the show's decline of quality are a decline in writing and Lauren Faust's departure from the show. The first argument is very hard to quantify without taking it on a case-by-case basis. And when you do that, you'll end up comparing apples to oranges. Each episode is different, has different plots, conflicts, interactions. Unless one episode blatantly rips off another, that argument cannot be substantiated. Lauren Faust's departure is an argument that, well, doesn't make any sense. Mainly for one solitary fact. No one has ever told me exactly what she contributed to the show, besides a Bible which the writers still continue to use. Her involvement didn't prevent accidents from happening. The plots of the Showstoppers and Ghostbusters were a mess. Characterization was often Look Before You Sleep and All's Well That Ends Well. Morals were sometimes botched up, such as the infamous Feeling Pinky Keen, which screwed up its morals so badly that she herself apologized for it. The episodes that she did directly have involvement in as a writer were also fairly weak. The Friendship is Magic two-parter has some extremely cheesy dialogue, and the second part is so rushed that it feels like there are some scenes missing. The most common example I cite is when Applejack just tells Twilight to fall off the cliffside without giving any reason why. Lauren Faust is not a bad writer. Most of the time. She was a writer for the Powerpuff Girls movie, and she wrote some of the better episodes of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, such as Store Wars, Goodbye to Blue, and Seeing Red. But she wasn't infallible either, writing both Everyone Knows It's Bendy and Partying Is Such Sweet Soiree, a couple of the more infuriating episodes of that show. What I'm saying is this. If you think that Lauren made Friendship is Magic great, then please tell me why, instead of just saying that she's great and blaming Megan McCarthy for the show's decline. And that brings us to Megan McCarthy, the next most common argument for the decline of Friendship is Magic. People who didn't like the third season are usually quick to blame her. In, let's say, less than friendly tones, I think we all know of some notable examples. Megan McCarthy is a very good writer, namely on episodes such as Party of One, Dragon Shy, Lesson Zero, and the almost universally loved A Canterlot Wedding. I mean, if there were any writer to pick to take over the show, she would seem like a prime candidate. She introduced the CMC in Call of the Cutie, and proved how likable Rarity could be in Sweet and Elite. Obviously, writing ability does not equal showrunning ability. Here's the thing, though. Megan McCarthy has had experience as a showrunner before. She was the head writer of Class of 3000, which was an alright show. It didn't exactly hit anything out of the park, but I do remember it fondly. The question I need to pose is this. What did Lauren bring that McCarthy did not? Until someone can come up with an answer, that argument is moot and I will not hear it. Another argument is that the flaws stick out more because there are only 13 episodes. In my Season 3 overview, I sort of detailed this. I divided each season into twos and compared them to each other. The results were that the first 13 episodes of Season 1 and the last 13 episodes of Season 2 were the worst stretches, and I went critically light on each of them. Season 3 was on par with the first 13 episodes of Season 2 and the last 13 episodes of Season 1, and I personally would have a hard time choosing which one of those stretches I would rather have. There are other random arguments that weren't quantified or were easily debunked, hubris and slapstick respectively. So I decided to take a look at various other series that took on seasonal rot, that obviously took on seasonal rot. The first thing that crossed your mind was probably SpongeBob. I've tangled with the Yellow Devil 7 times at present. SpongeBob SquarePants probably has, or had, the largest adult fan base of any era in cartoon, mostly because it was one of the magical few who was able to keep its runtime going for almost 15 years. The first 3 seasons of SpongeBob were undoubtedly good cases of rather screwball comedy. Then a movie came out, the show was renewed for a 4th season, and there was a change of showrunners. When seasonal rot hits, it hits hard. We've had SpongeBob episodes where one character gets their toenail ripped off in gory detail, and another one where we're treated to 11 minutes of a grotesque, pussy Splinter. Previously child characters are flanderized to the point of playing with baby toys. Characters and animals are abused for comedy, while others stay oblivious. For more comedy. This may be why I've had more tolerance towards Friendship is Magic's decline in quality. I may be biased, I realize that. Either that or I'm able to keep my head and not call something the worst possible thing when I know that it's undeniably not. I'm not going to call bronies lucky that they're spoiled compared to the schlock that SpongeBob has spewed. After all, being lit on fire isn't exactly what I'd call better than being thrown in a volcano. It's just that this might give us information as to how seasonal rot takes hold. I highly doubt that it'll ever get that bad. You have to try to get that bad. For the sake of argument, I'm going to consider Spike at Your Service as an outlier. Most of us agree that that one is pretty bad, and it's bad enough to skew the scale. To be fair, I'll also drop the most infamous episodes from Season 1 and 2, Pinky Keen and Mare-do-Well respectively. To start, was there any body horror or gross-out humor in Season 3 of Friendship is Magic? The most disgusting episode of Friendship is Magic, in my opinion, is A Bird in the Hoof, where we're treated to a dying bird for 22 minutes. The only other usage of gross-out humor in the entire show seemed to be in Baby Cakes, with Pinky forced to change dirty diapers. Season 3 had no episodes that used any instances of gross-out humor. The closest thing was Rarity eating a burnt pie and Spike at your service. Next is flanderization, taking one trait of a character and multiplying it tenfold. This was actually a criticism lobbied against Season 2 a lot. Sometimes it was justified, such as Rarity's behavior in Dragon Quest. Other times, such as Twilight's behavior in Lesson 0, it was more of an episode that decided to focus on the character's flaws, which was more or less Season 2's primary objective. It's an easy mistake for anyone to make. Here is a simple test to determine whether or not a character is flanderized. Ask, can I sum this character up in 1 or 2 sentences? This obviously doesn't work for minor characters, and this does not apply to out-of-character behaviors. We're not going to do this as an episode-by-episode basis, but as the season overall. Does this argument apply to any of the characters of the Season 3 episodes? Let's find out! Twilight is a bookish unicorn. She's a bit neurotic at times. Nothing is more valuable to her than her friends. Her biggest fear is letting Princess Celestia down. Twilight's safe. Spike is Twilight's #1 assistant. He's young, so he's frequently naive. He's actually really sensitive. He frequently keeps Twilight's neuroses in check. Spike is safe. Applejack is stubborn. She finds value in her family. She keeps her senses and sensibilities firmly on the ground. Even Applejack is safe. Rarity is a fashion designer. She can get melodramatic. She has an appreciation for the finer things in life. The other characters seem to have the most criticism lodged at them. Rainbow Dash is brash and bold. Her dream is to be in the Wonderbolts. She is willing to sacrifice her dream to do what is right. Fluttershy is incredibly timid. She is very protective of her animal friends. She has a crazy side and a possible personality disorder. Pinkie Pie is zany and fun-loving. Her friends mean more to her than anything else. She sometimes misses social cues. According to this simple test, none of the characters are flanderized to an unacceptable degree. They all apply to the Season 3 characters, and some of these only apply to the Season 3 characters. Another thing you could do is compare each of the characters to their appearances in the pilot. Character abuse for comedy, known as Kefka comedy, is the final sign we get from SpongeBob. If you're going with sheer slapstick, which isn't exactly this trope, then Season 3 took a step down from Season 2. If anything, Season 2 has more of Kefka comedy, with episodes like May the Best Pet Win, where Rainbow is tormenting Tank, and putting her hoof down where everyone is tormenting Fluttershy and vice versa. From SpongeBob's signs of seasonal rot, it seems like Season 2, my favorite season, has more signs of seasonal rot than Season 3. No help here. Next stop, The Simpsons. Season 11 is cited by many as the worst. At the very least, it doesn't have too many supporters. A lot of it had to do with episodes that changed the show's dynamic. This is the season that killed off Maud Flanders, a secondary character. This is the season that had Barney stop drinking, his defining character trait. It gave Apu and Manjula octuplets, and it had many other problem episodes like Settlesore Galactica, which I will have to get to at some point. If that's any clue, it seems like the problem is change. That's not it either. In Friendship is Magic Season 3, Discord and Trixie had returned, Rainbow started on her journey to becoming a Wonderbolt, Scootaloo got a closer relationship to Rainbow. These are all changes that the fans wanted, unlike killing off Maud Flanders or having Barney stop drinking. Whether Friendship is Magic's changes were done with tact, especially the big one that I didn't mention, depends on the person you're asking. Just keep in mind that Season 2 also had many changes. A Canterlot Wedding, Lesson 0, Read It and Weep. If we want to determine whether or not Season 3 is a sign of seasonal rot, we must come up with an argument that can only apply to Season 3, or at the very least apply to Season 3 to a great extent more than the other two. Also note that the changes in Season 2 didn't seem to be the ones that the fans were clamoring for. Maybe the problem is fan service. You know, like Derpy's appearance in the last roundup, the superhero tributes in Mare-do-Well, the Q-like villain in Return of Harmony, or the New Hope reference from the very same episode. Seeing Fluttershy take a stand and putting her hoof down? Or what about the Indiana Jones references in Read It and Weep? Do I have to do another count thingy? Because I will if I have to. All I'm looking for is an answer, one that I have not been able to find. Believe me, I've looked at all of the harshest critics of Season 3 as a whole. Unfortunately, the reasons I found ended up being selective. It's okay when Seasons 1 or 2 do it, but not Season 3. Nitpicky, misinformed, or just plain wrong. Hype backlash isn't a reason I particularly subscribe to either. That goes away after repeated viewings, and after the opening two-parter, it probably would have worn off. I'm not blind, stupid, or being reversively selective. I'm fully aware that there are duds in Season 3. They depend on who you ask. I have personally failed to keep Calm and Flutter On, One Bad Apple, and Spike at Your Service. To me, those are the bad episodes of Season 3. Someone else might like one of those three, and yet hate just for sidekicks. Just remember that you can hate whichever episodes you want, not just from Season 3. There are plenty of reasons to fail any episode from the show. Someone, somewhere can find a flaw in any episode because no work, pony or not, is ever perfect. And if you hit anything hard enough with a hammer, it's going to break. I'm asking for help. What am I not seeing about Season 3 of Friendship is Magic that so many others have seemed to find?